When you sit down and you analyze the reasons for divorce, I think it really boils down to communication. Issues of finance, issues of in-laws, issues of intimacy, all of it can be traced back to communication. And this problem of communication is something that we deal with from childhood, right? Maybe we're unable to articulate ourselves. Maybe we're unable to hit confrontation or deal with confrontation. We're unable to express ourselves. Maybe it was the way that our parents raised us. Maybe it was the way that our peers reacted to us. And this communication is important at the premarital stage, during the marriage, and especially so during the divorce process itself, right? What tends to happen is that in any divorce case, the lawyers are the ones who are not communicating on your behalf, and a lot could be lost in translation. So it's very important for our marriages, and even when it comes to divorce, so that we're not wasting our entire life savings on attorneys, that we learn to communicate, that we learn to express ourselves, articulate ourselves. And so I wanted to leave you, or to give you, inshallah, a few tips on how we can increase our communication skills. Number one is timing and tone, right? These are the two things we have to take into consideration whenever we're communicating with our spouses, right? As it relates to timing, for example, if the guy's coming home, if the man's coming home from work, that's not a very good time to talk about the issues or talk about what he didn't do or did do. You know, it might make sense to wait a little while and to have that conversation later. As it relates to women, if they had a really hard day at work or the kids really bothered them that day, that's probably not a good time or a good opportunity to tell them that the food sucked, right? So we really want to think about timing, but tone is also very important. For many men, the biggest thing that they want is respect. And so if you have somebody kind of yelling at you, the very first response is going to be to get defensive, okay? And so we want to make sure that our tone is in a way that's productive, in a way that's not yelling, condescending, and in an angry tone. So that's tip number one. Watch the timing and the tone of our communication. Tip number two is to compliment and to appreciate our spouses, right? One of the tips I have for myself, or kind of a rule that I have for myself, is to make sure and acknowledge that anytime your spouse gets ready for a party or is ready to go out, make sure that you compliment them, because they took a lot of time and effort to look good. And really, they're trying to look good for you. As much as we say that they're looking good for other girls or whatever the case might be, really, they're looking good for you. So make sure that you compliment them after they get ready, number one. And number two is after intercourse. And I know this is very rated R, but that's a very vulnerable position, for example, and maybe that's something that they're very conscious about. So that's a very good opportunity for a man to compliment their wife, is after that time. And also to women, compliment your husband, appreciate your husband, right? Appreciate the sacrifices that they've made as it relates to work, or how much effort they put in that week, or if they're going to the gym, acknowledge that. And likewise, acknowledge the sacrifices and appreciate the sacrifices and the effort that your spouse is putting in to make your life more comfortable. Tip number three is to create opportunities to have discussions with your spouse, right? And I think really what it comes down to is pillow talk and car rides. Okay, so setting up those environments where there are no distractions, put your phone down and take advantage of that time before you fall asleep. Use that opportunity to talk about your day, to talk about your feelings, to talk about, funny things that might have happened, to talk about, intercourse, to talk about what you want or don't want. That's a great opportunity for us to take advantage of. And really, we should really make a point to ourselves that we should schedule at least 10 minutes a day to have an intimate conversation with our spouses, okay? And just like you have foreplay for physical relationships, you kind of need foreplay to have an intimate conversation as well, right? You can't just jump into it and start talking about something very deep or something that's bothering you, right? You kind of have to set the tone, set the mood, set the timing, take advantage of the tips that we said before, and really set the stage for what you are trying to get across. Tip number four is to use other means if necessary, right? We live in this Twitter world. We're unable to express ourselves and we avoid confrontation. And you know what? Maybe that's how it is. And maybe you're not able to get over that right now. So you can use text messages, you can use email, and that might be a great opportunity for you to kind of think about what you want to say to your spouse and express yourself to your spouse. But at the same time, you can't expect your spouse to respond in the same way. If you like email, maybe they like text. If you like text, maybe they like to talk in person. Maybe they like a phone call. So take advantage of other, means to communicate, but don't ever not communicate. Number 5 is to take advantage of counseling. A lot of us, we just don't know how to communicate. We don't know how to express ourselves. We don't know how to articulate our feelings. And the point of counseling is nothing else but to teach you how to communicate, to teach you how to say what you want to say without necessarily accusing somebody, right? You are sharing your feelings without necessarily accusing someone, right? And so that's a very important tool that we have and that we really need to take advantage of. And maybe if it's not counseling, maybe read a book or take a class or something like that to teach you how to communicate. Honestly, like the problem of communication is what is, I believe, driving our young people to get divorced. Their parents coddled them. They didn't allow them to react. They didn't allow them to show feelings. And anytime there's a fight in the relationship, the very first thing they feel like, okay, I can't handle this. I can't put up with this. And they run to the lawyers, right? That's not going to be very beneficial for our communities. It's not very beneficial for our marriages. So we need to teach our children how to talk, how to articulate themselves, and give them the freedom to talk about their feelings. So inshallah, this is going to be a short video. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe for future videos. If you haven't heard already, sign up for the NIKAH Masterclass. Until next time, inshallah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.